The things, interestingly, that I've found are real deal breakers are, one, when people don't believe that they have anything to work on, and they really believe that in a kind of set way, not just in a defensive way, and you can't get them to a different position. That's a really hard sign. And the other is when people don't feel anything for each other anymore. And it's not just a kind of defensive numbness, but they really don't care. Those are the two things that really worry me when I first meet somebody.
Are there certain crisis points where people decide, well, I need a couples therapy at this point, and that would be more beneficial for them to see you earlier rather than later in their relationship?
Well, there's two. I'm going to take that question up on two levels, because
Sure.
it's a question that leads into some of the deeper things that I wanted to write about in the book. First of all, just pragmatically, I think people tend to come too late. You know, people tend to come when they're in a tremendous amount of pain, and I think it'd be better if people came earlier. But part of the reason I think that is because I think we think about what makes or breaks a marriage way too much in terms of the whole business of how much pain there is, or how much hardship there is, or what the trouble is. See, I mean, one of the things I really wanted to do in writing this was to redefine, again, how we think about marriage. And you know, we tend to have this kind of Rodney King attitude about marriage, like, why can't we just get along? As if a good marriage is one in which people get along without a lot of rancor or hardship. And I think that way underestimates what a marriage can be. I think ultimately we do better in life when we take on more than when we take on less. And I think we ought to try the same attitude about marriages, that we ought to think about them as actually an opportunity to grow and change that really can be quite radical in this particular culture. And if we have time, I'd love to get into why this culture in particular. But what I would argue, and one of the kind of cornerstones about thinking about this, is that people ought to stop thinking about problems, I mean the kinds of repeating problems that actually characterize every intimate relationship over time, as necessarily only bad things. Because I would argue that every single one of those repeating problems, those repeating arguments that folks get into, are frankly opportunities. That each of those things represents ways in which people are bringing problematic parts of themselves to a relationship that are theirs to work on, and that were they able to address them and change them, they'd actually grow individually. And what happens if we start thinking about these repeating problems as opportunities, rather than necessarily something that you have to fix and get on?
This excerpt is brought to you by the Massachusetts School of Law, the leader of reform in legal education and a leader in multimedia education for the public. To view the full interview and for a full listing of MSL's programs, log on to mslaw.edu.